episode of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. This is episode number 211, being recorded on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. It's been a little bit since the last episode. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you all are staying consistent, staying true to yourselves. Things have been just so busy here that finding the time to record an episode has proved to be problematic. Trying to get the opportunity to not only have a half hour to record, but to edit, upload, all at the same time wanting to sound decent on the recording. The last episode, I was in a bit of a brain fog. I don't, admittedly, I don't think I kind of came across too well with some of my thoughts on the two films that I had discussed. I think that was one of these things where I was just trying to get the episode out, and I was getting lost in my own thoughts, and I could have explained myself a little bit better, but it's out there. Can't take it back. I guess I could take it back, but I'm not going to. It's out there. That's the episode, and that's what it is. So, yeah, no, just a lot has been going on. Things have been very, very busy lately, but I'm glad that I've at least now finally have the opportunity to sit down and continue on with my favorite films of the 21st century. Now, I realized something soon after I recorded the last episode was that I have accidentally missed a film. So I've been doing these films in alphabetical order. And one of the films that was making my favorites, my 20 favorites of the 21st century, I accidentally skipped over. And I was like, how could that be? There's no way I could have forgot that. So I had to do some adjusting. And so yeah, I'm going to go back a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the next film on the list. And I should say as well, I haven't really been taking a whole lot of notes lately on topics for the show. It's been kind of nice to just go through these films that I feel so strongly about, and not have to, look at any kind of notepad, not have to go, okay, what do I want to talk about this time or this time. It's been nice to just have the ability to just talk about these films, just talk about films that, the 20 favorites that I have been just such a fan of, and can hopefully try to explain myself the best way. Sometimes, perhaps, stronger than others. Last time, like I said, I was in a little bit of a brain fog, and I apologize if I end up repeating myself. But either way, we're going to move on from there, and we are going to continue on here. We're going to talk about a film from 2009. Next up on the list is from action film duo Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor. This is what I have strongly considered the strongest American action film of the century so far, and that is Crank: High Voltage. On top of being just one of my favorite sequels, it is a film that it absolutely takes everything that was strong about the first one and just enhances that and goes into a completely off the rails, chaotic, 0 to 60 in 5 seconds direction. Crank High Voltage, you don't need to have seen the first Crank, but I think it may help in terms of, I think it'd be interesting to kind of put these two films back to back and just see the escalation in chaos that they ascend to. But we have Crank from 2006. With Jason Statham in the film. He wakes up one day and finds that there's a poison that will kill him if his heart rate drops below a certain point. And here we have Crank: High Voltage. It starts off with the ending of that film, the end of the first Crank, him falling out of a helicopter, crashing onto a car, slamming down on the pavement, and in that final shot, we see him blink. He's still alive, and this film picks up literally where that one left off. An ambulance literally scoops him off of the sidewalk with a shovel And from there, we just get into a great opening kind of setup with this news station, this news anchor, basically talking about the events of the first one and setting the tone, setting the precedent for how the film is. Because the film throws any kind of logic, any sort of reality out of the window, but not in a way where it really breaks its own rules. It's a film that feels like anything can happen at any point. It's a film that. It's a film that builds a certain momentum and never really lets up on it. It's a brisk, it's funny. It's an hour 36, but even when there's not constantly action happening, this is constantly moving, it's constantly chaotic. I think a big part of that as well is when you have Mark Nelden and Brian Taylor, who are essentially taking these consumer grade camcorders from, I think they got them from like Best Buy or something. It creates a certain feeling of almost like an independent film in a way, where where you watch a lot of lower budgeted films and that you watch something by like Larry Cohen, where you just go out in the street and you just do these things without permits. And here, they're getting permits. When you have Jason Statham in the film, you have Amy Smart, bigger stars for the time. Jason Statham now definitely, Clifton Collins Jr. So they're getting, obviously they're not just going out in the street and doing this, but it does have that feeling of an independent film where anything could happen anytime, anything wrong can go happen. But the film, it has momentum. And it keeps on going and it keeps on going. And when you have that sort of style, this really chaotic style, these lower handheld, lower grade consumer handheld kind of cameras, it gives you a feeling that, for one, you can do a lot more with the photography. I mean, I was remember when they directed the second Ghost Rider film, Spirit of Vengeance, and they were talking about how they were getting a lot of shots just from getting on rollerblades and just chasing the action down the street. It's very you have that accessibility that you probably wouldn't have, or wouldn't have maybe so easily with a studio film camera, even a studio kind of digital camera. And it's funny because even in their follow-up film, well, I guess the film they did the same year, Gamer, with Gerard Butler, which I also think is actually pretty underappreciated. It does kind of have that consumer grade sort of feel. That one looks a little bit more professional, so to speak, but it has that really just energetic, just chaotic is the word to use. But I think because the film doesn't take itself so seriously here, the fact that, the first 10 minutes alone, first 5 minutes alone are just so over the top. They are just so, it's playing by its own rules, the way that they have, right from the opening, Jason Statham, surviving the situation. They put in this almost secondhand sort of heart in him with a defibrillator in it, and just once it's going and it's going. The soundtrack is pumping a lot. I forgot who, I think it was Brian Taylor who did the score for this film, but the score I always really loved. Even early on, where there's a scene where he's just creeping around this like dock kind of yard. That piece of music right there. It sounds kind of stealthy, it sounds kind of sneaky, but it also sounds very contemporary. I've said before, I'm not really the best at describing music in terms of how it feels. But then when it really starts to get going, it has this boom, 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 boom energy with the score. As well as it's a very violent film as well. It's a film where, last year I had watched the film Novocaine with Jack Quaid, which was a film I actually thought was very enjoyable. It didn't make my 50 favorites of the year, but it made my 25 of 25 list. But the whole time sitting there in that theater, when you have that film, you have a character, Jack Quaid's character, who can't feel pain. He doesn't feel any like physical like touch. Even early on when he's being intimate with a woman, he doesn't really feel that either. But anyways, he gets himself into a situation where he's getting himself injured, he's getting himself all messed up. He's burning himself, he's cutting himself, and he gets very violent by the end. But the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, like, man, if this was done by Mark Nelden and Brian Taylor, I think this would be just something really, really exceptional, because I haven't seen a contemporary American action film like this. It's crazy to think that this got as wide of a release as it did back in 2009. I saw this theatrically back in 2009, and with the first Crank, while it does go big and it does have a lot of those, those big over the top kind of moments, it still feels I didn't want to say grounded in a way, but it feels heightened, but it feels like it's not that far off the ground. Albeit a handful of scenes. That film has that has its own kind of humor as well that's consistent. But here, I mean, they're just throwing it all out the window. The villains are so over the top. They are so violent with each other. The film is incredibly on PC. In a way that doesn't feel like showboaty. It doesn't feel like somebody's like, oh, I'm on PC, and they're just like, you're not very interesting though. You're just anyone can say or do anything crazy, but here you just have these like there's a shootout in like a strip club, and you have one of the strippers gets shot in her breast and starts leaking out the silicone. It's just so crazy, and it keeps the momentum going. I mean, I thought this was 80 minutes, but looking at the runtime, the fact this is 96 minutes, I just remember it being so relentless, man. Some of these sequences, you have characters just almost like a John Woo film. They're just crashing through windows. There is no, whatever stuntmen they're using for this. They are just willingly throwing their body around, flying off of motorcycles. And there's a great bit with who's that actor from Napoleon Dynamite I love? Efren Ramirez. The way he comes back, because he was in the first film, and the way they introduced him in this film, I mean, I don't even want to give it away. It's so funny what they do. They do two things with that character, and like I said, kind of tying into the NPC thing, but it works just so well. One of the biggest crimes, really, with these two filmmakers that they really didn't do a lot after this, or at least not much very interesting. Because they did, these films really weren't financially. I don't think they did financially very well, and I think critically they weren't very well received. The last thing they did was the movie Panama in 2022, which I'm not even really sure if this is. But they did the Vatican tapes in 2015, which I've never seen the trailer for. It looked like a very kind of generic, contemporary, exorcism kind of film. And I know that I think Brian Taylor did that movie Mom and Dad with Nicolas Cage, which that has moments in there of kind of the chaos of one of their types of films, but it never fully comes together. And it's kind of a shame that now where we have so many action films now, so many modern action films that I've found to be so forgettable and just so uninteresting. Really, it was Crank and Crank 2 that felt so like a breath of fresh air. I should also say that Brian Taylor would also go on to do the last Hellboy as well. He directed Mom and Dad. Mark Neveldine did not. Brian Taylor, did the last Hellboy, which I didn't see. I don't really think it got a lot of attention. It may have been straight to video, to my knowledge. But you just have a perfect formula for this of just when you're watching something like this, when it's playing by its own rules, when it's doing its own thing, when it's not contradicting itself, but it also is not interested in kind of following any sort of suit. It's a great feeling of danger where anything can happen to these characters. It doesn't even matter if these characters end up dying or not, because it's almost like death isn't even the end. I mean, the fact that characters come back who died from the first one, and what again, it's kind of hard to talk about because with this, I can just talk about scene after scene of just this big over the top humor and these really chaotic, violent action sequences, and the fact that they're crashing cars and they're throwing themselves off motorcycles, and there's a whole scene at a horse track that's very memorable right there. And the humor is going to land for you or it's not. But this is one that just completely lined up for me. And it's one that when I saw this back in theaters 2009, I remember this being just so inspirational for, action films in general are the choreography, the pacing of it all. They're not easy films to make, but this was one that I found so inspirational because it's like, wow, you can just get these camcorders, you can just go out and do this crazy stuff, and you also don't have to really kind of play by any studio rules. The fact that this was a big studio film, Lionsgate put this out, but the fact that this played in general theaters is just so wild, where I feel like It was almost. It really was just. It's like Back to the Future. It's like, Marty playing Johnny Be Good. It's like, yes, you're not ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it. And with Jason Statham still, consistently doing these starring action films, I really would love to see a Crank 3, because where this film goes to at the end, it's like, it's like a champagne bottle just ready to, like, it's like a cork ready to, like, bust, because where this goes to in the third act is, every time I see it, it is just, I'm in awe. I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I can't believe what, I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I'm just imagining Lionsgate just watching this and going, "Yep, that's fine. We, let them. There is no studio. What studio notes do you give them? What can you possibly take out of the film that would be too much for it?" I just love this film, man. It is everything that I've been looking for. It's almost like I've been chasing this high since I've seen it, of an action film that gives me this kind of rush that this one does, because nothing really has. I've seen plenty of solid, good action films since, but when I say this is my favorite American action film of the 21st century, this is one that just rises so far above the rest. Even the editing as well. I mean, just doing these weird kind of angles, these weird kind of shots, these crazy running with the cameras and just zooming in, and a character will jump off the roof and you follow them. I mean, there is nothing that I've seen that's like this. There is one other action film on my list here, but it's not an American action film, and it's an action film that is great in its own right. But this is a film that I don't know how many times I've seen this, but this is long overdue for its kind of reevaluating. I mean, I know people know and like these films, and but I have not had this much fun with an action film in America. I haven't had an experience like this. Just seeing this in a theater in 2009 and being so taken aback positively of just how there's no way to predict what the next scene is going to be. There's this whole great scene in an electrical park, and if you know what I'm talking about, then you know just how wild that whole thing gets. But yeah, with Jason Statham still being in action films, and a lot of them have been pretty good. The Beekeeper I thought was a lot of fun. Working Man was okay. I just saw Shelter. I wasn't really crazy about that. I just got a new one at the time of this recording. I think it's called Mutiny, I think. And same with Gerard Butler as well, because even with Gamer has a lot of moments in that. I don't think it all works, but there's just some real wild, violent moments in that. And this adrenaline shot that runs through these films, that no one is making action films like these two, and I really hope that we can get something else from them, because like I said, I mean, Mom and Dad has moments throughout that I think show it, but I think the tone is kind of off in that, and I haven't seen like the Vatican tapes or the other, it's just like these are just like random studio for like gun for hire types of movies. So I would just love to see something else by them, because Crank, and especially Crank 2, are just two absolute highlights. In fact, Crank 2 is the action highlight of the century so far for me. I really, really love this film. So, moving on from there, going to the only film that I did rewatch, but it was not intentional for this. I don't know if I actually even maybe I did have the list up. But it didn't come to mind when I rewatched this, because I was showing this to my fiance. She fell asleep halfway, but so I ended up just watching all of it, and it reminded me that the film is still it gets better and better with every viewing. But this is from Martin McDonagh, who, funnily enough, recently I was like, man, when is he gonna have a new movie come out? And then out of nowhere, saw an announcement that he has a new film coming out in November, Wild Horse 9. But Martin McDonagh, for me, has yet to make a film that I don't think is great. I'm talking about his feature films. I haven't seen his short six-shooter from 2004, but all four of his films have been great for me. And my next pick is his debut feature, 2008, which is In Bruges. He'd go on to do Seven Psychopaths, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and then The Banshees of Inisherin, all three of which I think are great. Martin McDonagh, to my knowledge, was originally a playwright, or he had some involvement with being a writer, being involved with the stage. Yeah, he was a playwright originally, and he is one of the only filmmakers, I would say, he has consistently mastered comedy and drama in a way that both feel sincere and both feel honest. But both feel his comedy works so well and is so funny, and his drama can oftentimes get so dark, but never in a way that feels awkward. In Bruges, I think, is one that was a difficult film to market. Because I remember even when this came out, I don't know if this even got a wide release or not, but I remember seeing some of the trailers for it and seeing it kind of pop up, and it's hard to really kind of put your finger on it because you see the poster and it looks incredibly goofy. Ray Fiennes is scratching his head with a gun. Colin Farrell is holding an ice cream cone. He's got a gun. It's like, what is this? This is like a silly comedy, and it is that there is a lot of really, really funny comedy in this. But I think what really took this back for me, not even the first time that I saw it, but on repeated viewings, was how well the drama works, which you don't really find out what is going on until at least the halfway point. We have Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, who are two assassins who are hiding out in Bruges, which is in Belgium. They're both hitmen. Brendan Gleeson is a bit more optimistic. He wants to see the city. He wants to see the tourist kind of spots. Colin Farrell is grumpy. He really doesn't want to do any of that. He doesn't want to be with Brendan Gleeson. He doesn't like Bruges. He just talks about how much he hates the area. He doesn't like the people. He's just being a total grump. And there's a lot of great comedy early on. But then when we find out what is happening halfway through, why they are there, what happened in one of their pasts, we start to really see what led them to this state of mind. It's unclear if they were always like this, if they always kind of had this attitude. But after something incredibly traumatic happens in a moment that is directed so well, the way that Martin McDonagh chooses to hold off on information in the frame. We just get a reaction from one of the characters, and then we see the event and how impactful that is. Like a character who is living with the decision that the accident, the decision that he had made, and what does that mean for him as a person. It's also a very spiritual film, kind of talking about, going to heaven or going to hell. Sort of Bruges, jokingly being kind of like purgatory, but in a way, it really kind of ties into really a lot of the themes of the film. Dealing with mortality, dealing with redemption, how irredeemable is someone really. Brendan Gleeson has just a great piece of dialogue about that. And also, I got to say, Ray Fiennes, who shows up really at the beginning of the third act, steals every scene he's in. He plays Harry, who is kind of the one who is, they have to report to. And he has to go and kind of take care of things. He's just so funny. His comedic timing is second to none. Right from his introduction, not even his introduction, but when we start to focus more on him, when he's at his house, he has a great bit where he's on the phone, and I don't want to give that away. But then he has my favorite scene of the film, which is a dialogue he has between Ray Fiennes and him at a cafe, which I've definitely used that clip on the show before. I remember when I was talking about that film, The General, from 1998 with Brendan Gleeson, which made my top 10 of that year. I used that clip. I mean, you can find it online, but it's just so funny. They're back and forth. Ray Fiennes' reaction to something that Brendan Gleeson says, it almost takes him aback, where he's so surprised that Brendan Gleeson would say something, and he's like, how could you say that? It's great. It never feels over the top. It never feels big. And I think Martin McDonagh, his humor just totally lands for me, especially in like Seven Psychopaths. I remember like Sam Rockwell in that movie is just so funny. And like his back and forth between him and Woody Harrelson in that. And Colin Farrell, his frustration with everything. And that's the film as well. It gets very dark. And with Christopher Walken's character, with his past, he has a very, something very dark happen to him in the past. But it all works. I think Martin McDonagh is just, like I said before, I think he's just one of these writers who can balance these tones so well. Because it's such a tricky film. It's a dark drama, but it's also a very very silly comedy. There's a great bit early on when Colin Farrell is talking to some tourists, and they're asking about climbing the stairs, and or talking about how they're gonna have to climb the stairs, and Colin Farrell's reaction is like, "You're not climbing up those stairs." Um, but yeah, and also I gotta say, who is that as well? I think that was Clemency Posey. I always say her name incorrectly. She's a French actress. She's been in a bunch of stuff. She had a small part in like Tenet. Remember her early on. I really like her as an actress. She has a good role in the film, and also the what is that actor's name? Jordan Prentice. He's there working on a film set, and he's just getting annoyed at everything that Colin Farrell is dealing with him. They have a great bit when they're at a bar, and he's talking about the race war that's going to come, and the way that scene concludes, it all comes back. In a way that to Max's Purgatory kind of setting, where everything is really kind of set up, even moments throughout that you wouldn't that are seemingly played for laughs, like like a scene in the restaurant kind of comes back later, and almost ends up like kind of trapping one of the characters there. It all comes back and it all feels set up and earned. Even the ending is very uh, very you could say ambiguous, but I think it does kind of match in with the mood of the rest of the film. It's almost kind of at times feels very kind of dreamy, where it feels like this never ending kind of place where you're just exploring all these areas, and you have all these kind of luxuries, but then at the same time it's like you're stuck there. You have nothing to do. Like you can only go and drink so much. You can only visit so many statues. You can only visit so many museums or buildings. But on this last viewing, it just made me, the combination of just a really good screenplay and the really top-notch acting from everyone. I mean, there is no shorthand in the film, and I think Colin Farrell, he's been in two of Martin McDonagh's other films of Seven Psychopaths and The Banshees of Inisherin, and I think I don't know if he's gonna be in his new one or not. I don't remember if I saw him in the trailer. I know Sam Rockwell's in it, and Sam Rockwell is great as well. Um, is a great kind of he works great with Martin McDonagh, but no, the film is fantastic. I'm trying to say I'm trying not to repeat myself too much because I can only say so much that without kind of going in circles. But I think Martin McDonagh has a great sense for mood as well. He knows when to play it straight. He knows when to play it comedic. And the film just totally worked for me. All of his films have worked for me, and I have, I'm not going to walk into his new ones ready to love it, but I do have high hopes for it, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing what he does next. So yeah, I guess that was just going to do it for this one. I ended a little bit early, but, I am happy with getting my thoughts out on here. So, like I said, things have been so busy lately. It's kind of a miracle I even got this episode out. So I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening. I try to be more consistent, but, sometimes I do the show for fun. I have my real world kind of, or I have my real life obligations. Sometimes they have to kind of take precedent over everything else. But for you guys listening and giving the show an opportunity, I really do sincerely appreciate it. And I hope that some of these films I mention, end up sticking with you, or if you haven't heard of them, you can check them out, or you're curious about it, or even if it kind of just sparks, an idea about something else, about another film or anything like that. I just really appreciate you guys listening, and that's all I got to say for this one. So thank you guys so much for listening. I'm a little behind on the episodes, so I will get them out in a timely manner, knock on wood. But until next time, appreciate you guys listening. Thank you.